And we're live. This is how this is the new show. It's going to be called And We're Live on Mighty Blaze on Pub Day Tuesday with Aimee Liu, whose book Glorious Boy is out today. And I have an advanced copy, so I'm looking at yours. Is it the same, or it's just it's brighter, or you have better light, Aimee?
They brightened it up a little bit between the advanced reader and the final, so it looks a little lighter in the middle.
That's so funny. I'm like, is that the light, or is that important things after all? And I'm so happy to have you here on A Mighty Blaze on this beautiful, gorgeous day. Now you're in LA, right? Is it beautiful?
I'm in LA. It's kind of June gloomy here today, but it's fine.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's gorgeous in New England, Aimee.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad it's not snowing, Robin.
It was. I know.
I know.
Snow, and my friends own the tulip farm, and I was like, oh my goodness, the tulips, they're okay. But yeah, who expects snow on May? Well, I mean, all bets are off. I don't think I don't think there's anything that we can say, well, that's crazy. That would never happen. And I will read Aimee's. I'm just going to spend the next 20 minutes reading your bio because it's quite impressive, Aimee. Aimee Liu is the author of numerous best-selling novels as well as nonfiction books on medical and psychological topics. Her work has appeared in the Los Angeles Times, Los Angeles Review of Books, Ms., and many other publications. She's on the faculty of Goddard College's MFA in Creative Writing program at Port Townsend, Washington. Yada, yada, yada. She grew up in New York, spent 2 of her earliest years in India. Her father was born in Shanghai, the son of a Chinese scholar, revolutionary, and his American wife. You just might find a few of these threads in her novels. She received her BA from Yale University, studying painting. After setting visual art aside for decades, she's recently come roaring back into this medium. Oh, courtesy of Instagram, you can find her at Faux Paintings. Oh, that's what you were trying to upload on Instagram. So,
well,
yeah, or something.
I do stills, not videos, clearly.
Well, at the moment, you could visit her at aimeeliu.net, and from there on Instagram and everything else. Also, returned to grad school to earn her MFA from Bennington Writing Seminars. She worked as a flight attendant, edited business and trade publications, and was an associate producer for NBC's Today Show before returning to writing full-time, and she lives in Los Angeles. And you are such a low achiever, Aimee. I mean, I was reading this before, and I must have missed flight attendant. Which airline did you work for? Or airline?
United. That was shortly out of college.
Wow, you and Ann Hood. Have you ever traded flight attendant stories?
No, I haven't.
Ann flew for TWA. Yeah. Oh yeah.
When there was a TWA.
Exactly.
Those were the days. Yeah.
Your uniform or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that I know that, the next interview, I want to see that. So you have so much varied interest and so creative and all of that. So that flying was right out of college. Was that like a practical decision, or did you always want to travel? Or
it was practical, but the travel was nice while it lasted. But right? I did it for slightly less than 3 years, so
okay,
long enough.
Yeah, long enough too. But also the stories that you must collect. I mean, now, I don't know the thought of it.
Yeah.
Now, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, you've done a lot of really impressive things. I'm like, you were a flight attendant.
I know.
And find Aimee on aimeeliu.net. And Glorious Boy is her brand new book. It's out by Red Hen, right? Red Hen Press. I love this press. There have been so many amazing books that have come out lately from Red Hen, and you said a lot of your friends have had books come out, and
they're phenomenal. And what's different about them for a small press is that they are very varied. So they are like, I am used to being published by commercial publishers, and switching over, it's a little hard to find a small press that's interested in more commercial fiction. It's like it's got a bad name or something. And now it's literary fiction is commercial, but it's hard for some of the small presses to kind of recognize that. So
yes, and they do a really good job. They've
been wonderful.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And it's Pub Day, and that's always exciting. What has it been like? What else have you been doing? Do you have a lot of online events happening? Because I know you have a lot of touring to do.
Yeah, I did a podcast with Susan Wingate this morning, and I'm doing an event with Diesel Books in Brentwood. That's online on Crowdcasting tonight. And I'm going to be on with Novel Network for book groups this afternoon. So that's great. But I have to say my biggest book birthday present, aside from the 2 starred reviews that I got last week and the week before, which was pretty big gift, but I got an unbelievable endorsement from Pico Iyer yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
Can I read it? Can I read it, Robin?
I don't have, yes, please do. That's so awesome.
He says, the most memorable and original novel I've read in ages. Aimee Liu evokes every side in a multicultural conversation with sympathy and rare understanding, which is just, I mean, I adore Pico Iyer's work. So this was a huge thing.
Congratulations, right, to hear from somebody who you admire so deeply. And also when you get something like that, you don't know it's coming, and you don't know, you did know it was coming, you don't know what it's saying. And as you're reading it, what different people attach to a book or the things they pick up on, like, especially when you're a writer, every word matters so much. So you must, how many times did you read that?
Oh, I'm still reading it continuously, just on a loop, you know, because he got the book, you know, he got the inflections in my British characters and the whole colonial thing. And my main character, Claire, comes into it as an American. So there's this conflict between her American view and the British colonial attitudes. And then there's Indigenous people and Indians and all. It's a real melting pot, this book. And Pico said in his note to me, apart from this, he said it may be the most multicultural novel he's ever read. Where, you know, where I have, you know, like he says in the quote, I mean, he said, I was really touched because he said, I captured the perspective of all of these different points of view, you know, and honored them and respected them and empathized with them, which of course I was trying to do, but you never know that you're actually succeeding until somebody like that says, yeah, you did it.
And because it is so important, and you could tell the tenderness with which you write, and in terms of sensitivity and getting so much of that. Wow, that's like mic drop. I got this. I'm all set. Enjoy the book, everybody. But that is, yes, to talk about, you know, because of course it just came out today, so some people have read it, but not everybody, and there are no spoilers on A Mighty Blaze. So it's aimeeliu.net for, right, Aimee Liu? Right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
For more information, and you can find her still artwork on her Instagram and maybe a video at some point. And it's Glorious Boy, and it's just out now. So share a little bit about the story and the idea, and you know what your readers should know.
Well, the core story came to me in a dream 17 years ago. So one of the things you need to know is this book took 17 years to write. And not all at once, obviously, but in fits and starts. And the dream that woke me up in the middle of the night and sent me to my desk was the dream of the core story that kicks off the book, which is there's an emergency evacuation of an island. And there's a mute 4-year-old boy and the young girl who takes care of him, who's very jealously protective of him. And she knows that in this evacuation, his parents are not going to take her with them. And so kind of out of jealousy, kind of out of anger, kind of out of immaturity, she hides him. Mm-hmm. And then they don't come out until everybody's gone and they see smoke rising in the distance. And she realizes, what have I done? Wow. So that's the dream that woke me up.
Wait, that whole dream. So when you go to bed at night, do you think like, what's going to happen? Like, are you a very vivid dreamer in general?
Yes. Yeah, I am.
You remembered that much that it woke you, and you just like started, you know, just getting down what you remembered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't happen very often that it's that strong or that, you know, has that much potential, but this was big.
That is big, because I always wonder, like, what is it during the day, or what have you read or thought about or heard that puts you into that state where that type of dream would be in there somewhere?
I think it may have been news stories, actually. I think at that time there were a lot of uprisings in West Africa,
Mhm.
or that was for some reason on my mind. And so I think actually that's what planted the idea of evacuation and needing to get out and emergency, and the rest of it,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That nugget, and of course now, thinking about evacuation and emergency and just crisis is a little familiar. So it's always, there are a lot of people that are reading books and really want to talk about things that are very timely or relatable in exactly what's happening in our world as it's unfolding. So that's a really cool thing too. And wow, very, very exciting, all of it. So you have it looks like you have a little bookstore set up there.
I have a little bookstore set up here.
And also
but they're not for sale, they're mine.
Not for sale. No, I know, that's like the funny thing. People have been, sometimes when I have a lot of books, I'll just post a Facebook message. I don't post my address, but my friends who know me, I'm like, I have books, come take them. But now I'm like, will people come take them? Like, can you touch them? Can I leave them out? I don't know, but you want to share. But yeah, those are Aimee, so you can't come and get those. Plus I see you, of course, standing in front of your bookshelves. So you're too far away for me to totally
yeah, I don't think you can read the titles, but
no, I definitely cannot. I would need Lisa Duffy from the first episode's Cheaters, and even then I probably wouldn't be able to do that. So you talk about we talked about World War I with Rachel Barenbaum, and talking about it's the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II.
75th, yep.
75, and you talk about a forgotten note of history, and it's always amazing to me when an author comes upon something that, when you think we've heard everything there is to hear, or every battle or situation or people that are connected to that period of time, and then there's always more. So can you share something about that?
Oh, the history of the Andaman Islands, where this is set, is so phenomenal. They're about 200 miles off the coast of Burma in the Bay of Bengal. And the British went there in the late 1800s to build a penal colony because they were so remote, filled with primeval forest. And they took this one little Port Blair, and turned it into a penal colony for the Indians who were agitating for independence from the British Raj. And they built this monster jail there. But the rest of the islands were inhabited by tribes that went back 60,000 years to the Great Migration out of Africa. Wow. So this created this strange, from the late 1800s, really around the 1900s, turn of the century, the 1900s, it created this odd melting pot of people from all over India, and then the British colonial influence, and a few Europeans, and Burmese were there because they were Indian subjects. But the whole rest of it were these old tribes, which were dominant as of the late 1800s, and by the 1930s, when this book starts, they're almost all wiped out already because of diseases and violence. So into that world come my characters in the story, but the action, the emergency, the evacuation happens because the Andaman Islands were the westernmost territory occupied by the Japanese. And the Japanese arrived there in 1942 after sweeping across from Singapore, and then they took Rangoon, and then in a matter of days, they landed in Port Blair. And what was so critical about it was the next stop was India. Mm-hmm. The next stop was the Indian mainland. And, had they not been stopped at that point, and that was obviously America was getting in the war and the Japanese were getting to be a bit busier in the Pacific Island at that time. So that was part of it. But also there was this fascinating espionage stuff that was going on in the islands, which is part of my story as well. And those espionage efforts were also instrumental in keeping the Japanese contained and preventing them from going across. But there was an evacuation in 1942, very much like my dream. I mean, it took me, I went to the Andaman Islands in 2010. Mm-hmm. So it took me 7 years from the time I had the dream to actually figure out how and when the story was set.
Right.
And because it wasn't until I got there in 2010 that I discovered this whole World War II history, and that there had been this evacuation, and one ship had gotten out, but the other ship had been torpedoed before it could get back. And so there were people stranded in the islands when the Japanese arrived. There were people executed. It was very, very tense, very fascinating, very dramatic. And so I had this dream, and then I had this historical gift that just plopped right down, and, you know,
like you were meant to write this book. Like, don't you sort of feel like, I can't imagine that, you know,
I couldn't let it go. I just couldn't let it go. And there were so many times when I sort of thought, year after year after year, I kept, you know, going away, working on other things, come back to this. And, you know, what am I doing? This is just like this incredible yo-yo. And, you know, so now to finally have it out and to be getting, you know, I've gotten 2-starred reviews, which has never happened in my writing career. And this gorgeous quote from Pico Hire, and, you know, and people really are loving it. There are more and more reviews every day, and it's incredibly gratifying. And, you know, so to other writers, and I do teach in an MFA program, I sort of feel like I'm now the poster child for just stick with it. If you really believe in it, stick with it, stick to your guns. Don't let go of that drive and that passion and whatever it is psychically that says, you know, you gotta deliver this book to the world.
That's the thing that's so cool. And one of the things I just so love about talking to authors is hearing those stories of how the book came to be, which book almost wasn't, you know, who was supportive, and how many times it was like you say, like, how long are we going to keep going with this, or when do you know, and then when you read a book like that, you think, how could this not have been here? Because here it is. So, you know, that is so cool. And also the meeting you had with the anthropologist that kicked this off, what was, you tell that quickly before I let you go?
Yeah, sure. Well, the whole Andaman Islands thing started with an anthropologist's wife who came by accident to a reading that I was doing from my first novel, Cloud Mountain. And, you know, she was there with a friend. She really didn't care about China and all the stuff I was talking about. But when I said that I was going to write my next novel in India, she came to life and she said, oh my God, I just came back from this incredible place, the Andaman Islands, and they just opened up and started letting foreigners come. And it's the most incredible place on earth. And she, you know, and that was my introduction to the Andamans. So that was there in the back of my mind. And it wasn't, I didn't actually get to the Andamans myself until 2010, but that was way back in 1998. So
it was going to spark something. Yeah. Interesting that she wasn't that interested in China, but like you can see when somebody just automatically has that connection, and it's a whole different party, you know?
Yeah. And then I think Claire is a budding and aspiring anthropologist, sort of as an homage to Sharon, this woman who has since become a friend.
Oh, she is. I was going to ask it. Yeah. Sometimes people don't know when they've inspired or set that spark going, oh, good. So she does know.
She does know. Okay. Yep.
Love that. And visit aimeeliu.net for more information about Glorious Boy. Was this, I mean, it's a perfect title, I think, but were there many that you played with, or was this?
There were many. There was another, for a while it was called The Devotions, because the core story is about the different kinds of devotions that people have, especially the devotion to this child that they all are trying to get in tune with and save. So, yeah.
Titles are really, I'm always fascinated by the ones that are just, this was the title, this was always the title, or when, you know, there's a difference of opinion, or how hard somebody will fight for a title. And then once again, like the book, it's like, okay, of course that's the title. So you're out in LA, you guys have been in isolation for, you know, on the
3 weeks, I think, 4 weeks.
Yeah. A month, 2 months, a year, whatever it has been. So what's been particularly interesting to you, or something that you've done that you wouldn't have maybe had time for because you've been in?
Well, I have to say that my life hasn't much changed. I'm almost embarrassed to say that, but as an introvert and as a writer, I don't leave the house a lot anyway,
Right.
other than going for a walk every day. So other than getting, groceries delivered, we do spend a little bit more time watching TV and reading. So I've been reading books by friends and collecting the titles of things to read. And I will share that we have been watching this series on Netflix called Call My Agent, which is French. Ooh. And it's just a delightful escape from all of this. It's really fun and really funny and wonderful.
Thank you. I have a list going of everybody who's talking about Netflix or Hulu or whatever. I thought I was so brilliant because I was on Netflix and I found one that I don't remember anybody telling me about. And I'm like, so good. And then I come to find, it's a thing because I'm so immersed in the books and a lot of just like older TV. I haven't really connected with as many of the series, although the ones I have connected with, I've really liked. So maybe I'm just a liar. I don't know, but Call My Agent. You had me at the title. So thank you very much for that. I know. And the grocery thing, I kind of like the delivery thing. There are a few, things that have changed now that I wonder, I don't know, like what's going to remain or which business will have a good model. Because I kind of like not going shopping for food.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of like just showing up. I mean, that's a lot of time saved. And anyway, I'm so glad to have this time with you on such a special day. And congratulations for all the great news for Glorious Boy, and follow Aimee at aimeeliu.net and also on Instagram and Twitter. Are you on Twitter or Facebook?
I am on Twitter, kind of.
Yeah, she's everywhere. Just follow.
Could I give a shout out to two of your authors that before we go? Because I have to say, I have so many friends with books out now, and they've all been on your show, and they're all on A Mighty Blaze. So two in particular that I'm looking forward to reading. Kate Milliken's Kept Animals.
So good.
We were at Bennington at the same time, so it's really exciting to see her book come out. And Jennifer Stiles' Exile Music.
I didn't read that one. Did I?
That I think came out last week. So maybe she wasn't on your show, but
maybe it was a debut spotlight. Yeah. I will look for it though. What was it?
Exile Music.
Exile.
Another World War II book. Yeah.
Well, the readers can't get enough of that, really, and book club. So soak that up. But Kate Milliken, I actually
and Jennifer Stiles. Yeah.
Jennifer Stiles. I brought Kate's book to the Tulip Farm with me because I just saw it in hay somehow with the horses. But and Jennifer Stiles. So for more information about that, go to A Mighty Blaze because you can just circle, just scroll down and you'll see all the videos. Not sure if you can search on Facebook, but we'll let the readers figure that out. Thank you for the shout outs. We love that. We're celebrating books. That's what we're doing here on A Mighty Blaze for A Mighty Blaze. I'm Robin, reading with Robin and Glorious Boy, and continued fun with your beautiful pub day, and look forward to hearing more. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Robin.
Oh, such a pleasure.